Hello YouTube, Alpha Charlie Papa channel here, and today we've got a little special appearance here, a couple of VIS Polish Radom pistols. I got the Old Gunsmith here. He's going to give us a little intro and give us a little information about them.
Hi, this is Paul Mazan. I'm here to talk a little bit about the Polish Radom pistols and their development and show you how they're taken down. Originally, the Polish government was going, and this is 1929, the Polish government was going to buy new pistols, automatic pistols from Czechoslovakia. They had already bought a couple of the Czech Model 24 with slight modifications and had already financed the purchase of them to replace the Nagant pistols that they were building at the Radom arsenal. The Nagant was a revolver. You may have seen them advertised. There's a whole bunch of the Russian ones that have come in. Polish ones would have Polish markings on them, and they go for really high dollars. Anyway, two of the people who worked at the arsenal, Piotr Wisnowinski and Jan Sierpinski. Rather than go through all that, you won't remember those names, and they're Polish, so I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing them right. But anyway, Piotr would be Peter, and the other is Jan. So we'll call them Pete and Jan. So Pete and Jan worked at the Polish arsenal in Warsaw, and were not at all happy with the whole idea with the Czech pistol. They thought it was a little lightweight since it was 32 ACP for a service gun. And so they went to the Polish Ministry of Armaments, and they said, hey, we've got a development of a pistol made that we could make here, almost finished. We just need about 6 weeks to finish it up. It was a lie. They hadn't done anything at this point. They just wanted to. So the Polish Armament Ministry said, that's a great idea. We'd like to have a Polish pistol. So the two, Jan and Pete, went to work and drew up real quick some plans based on the 1911 pistol that the U.S. Army was using, and used that as a base. And they also took the Browning High Power, which was an improved version of the 1911, and looked at the two designs and kind of amalgamated the two. This is the Browning High Power. It's a later model than World War II. This would have been made in the 60s. But you can see there's a family resemblance as well as resemblance to the 1911. An awful lot of the Polish pistol is a hybrid. You'll notice that the mainspring housing here and the grip safety are absolutely 100% the same as the 1911, just scaled down, where the high power doesn't use a grip safety at all. But the Poles, because they were cavalry heavy, wanted cavalry wanted a pistol with a grip safety, so they put a grip safety on it. Anyway, let's take this out of here. So Jan and Pete went and drew up plans for it, took it to the Polish Armament Board, and got approval to go ahead. And they had a few weeks to actually produce a prototype. So they went back to work and worked day and night to put together a pistol that answered everybody's requirements, the cavalry's, the infantry's requirements for a service pistol. It has a lot of advanced features. Now, keep in mind, this is 1939, and it still has a single stack magazine like the 1911 that it came from. So that's very much 1911-like. They did add a third lever that was later deleted by the Germans, and a hammer drop. So we're talking about a pistol with a hammer drop that moves the firing pin forward so the hammer can't hit it and will decock the pistol. They also use the rowel type of hammer so that it could be cocked by a cavalryman by just holding it in one hand and brushing it against his pant leg, and that would, the serrations on it would catch and it would cock the pistol. So they could carry the thing with the hammer down on a loaded chamber and cock the pistol and use it one-handed. And that was the whole idea. It does not have a manual safety. It only has the grip safety, so that a cavalryman would not have to manipulate the pistol. He could hold his reins in one hand and do everything he needed to with that pistol with the other. They obviously produced a successful prototype in about 6 weeks' time and went to the trials. The pistol worked. There were a few minor changes made, but overall the Ministry of Armament was quite happy with it. If you will notice, we all call these Radom pistols. Normally they call them a 1935 Radom. The actual name of the pistol is VIS, V-I-S. And that is on the one grip, FB, which is where it's made. It's FB, Fabrica Brani, I think. Anyway, VIS is Latin for power. So you have the Browning high power and the Polish power. That sounds neat, Polish power. I like that. Anyway, a lot of people think on the earlier guns this lever here is a safety. It is not. The only function that lever has is in taking down the pistol, it holds the slide open so that you can pull forward on the guide rod and push out the, see if I can get it to work. Yeah, push out the lock, or the slide lock. Then if you come back and disengage that, the slide comes off the front of the pistol. Very much similar to the 1911 in that in Takedown. Inside you've got a captured captured recoil spring on a full-length guide rod, something that we kind of think is as a new adaptation, and a barrel that resembles the Browning high power barrel in that rather than having a link and pin the way the 1911 does, it has a ramp here to lock it. That is not as subject to breakage as the link is, so it's a tougher, more robust design. There's a lot of speculation. I have heard it said that Browning came to Poland and helped them develop the pistol. I have not been able to find anything to actually verify that, and I would be surprised if that actually happened, mainly because Browning had just introduced the high power. I mean, I could see them going to Poland and trying to sell them the high power, but I can't quite understand why Browning would want to go ahead and help them develop a pistol to compete with theirs. So I don't question that Browning was there. They probably were, but I don't think they were there for the reason everybody says. Anyway, this is nothing but a takedown lever, and if you'll notice on the older ones, they did away with it, and they simply used the hammer to fall into the slot here and to hold the pistol open. That was when the Germans took over production. The Poles made the pistol from 1935 until they were invaded in 1939. The Nazis came in, looked at it, liked the design so well that they simply adopted it. So there are several different generations, if you will, of the Radom. First generation would have a big Polish eagle on the slide here, and those are pre-war pistols. They'll be dated, and quite frankly, they're so expensive I can't afford them. Then when the Nazis took over, you've got the second generation, or Type 2, that was the Radom, that was made from parts that were left over before the Nazis came in. And then the Nazis, of course, took over the Radom arsenal and started using slave labor to assemble the pistols. And as the war went on, the quality got poorer and poorer, and they were doing things to make it faster and cheaper, like doing away with this and putting roll pins in rather than solid pins, and just a bunch of things to speed production and still keep the pistol functional and tough, but nowhere near as expensive. So as you've seen, the takedown is quite easy, and putting it back into the captured firing pin again, something that we think of as a modern concept, isn't at all. It goes all the way back to 1930s, and these, you'll notice the slide and the frame are pretty much 1911 type of technology. That goes back on. fits together. It's just that simple. We have another example here from the same era. Both of these were made under Nazi occupation. This particular one I got several years ago, and story that came with it was that it was taken off of a German. Of course, they always say officer, but we know NCOs and a lot of people carried them. So it was taken off a German prisoner. It was sitting in the holster, and he was wounded. He bled into the holster, and that's what all of this stippling here is. This is blood corrosion that's been cleaned off. So I've left it that way. That formed the basis of the pistol that appears in my book, Fighting Poles. In the book, I reference the main character having picked up a Polish pistol made during the Nazi occupation that had been bled on, and this was the pistol that's referred to in the book. The design is ergonomically very nice. They feel good in the hand. They shoot well. They're amazingly accurate considering that they were thrown together during the war. Now, I will point out, this is the pistol as it was manufactured. It has a very rudimentary front sight and very small rear. The sights on it are very poor. This one, when I got this one, somebody had filed that front sight off, and I had a friend of mine use a TIG welder, and he built up metal on there, and I put a better sight on that's much easier, and that's actually carrying a 1911 rear that's aftermarket rear. So this has a much better sight picture. I always laughingly call that my national match Radom. So these were used throughout World War II. At the end of the war, when the Russians approached the Radom factory, the Germans moved production to Czechoslovakia, and those pistols that were made there were extremely crude, and they still bring a premium price because there were so few of them. So basically that's the takedown and a little bit of history on the development of the Radom pistol. They are out there. They're not horribly expensive, although in the last few years they have certainly seen the price go up. I was buying these 3 levers, pistols that still have the 3 levers, back in the 80s for about 250 bucks. Now you're looking near 1,000, but that's just the way the whole firearms market has gone. Okay, we talked about the Polish Radom yesterday. Today we're out at the range. We're going to try shooting it. This is a 75-year-old gun. Actually a little more than that, 76. Anyway, it was made under Nazi occupation by slave labor. It is the one that has the blood, yeah, what do you call it? Pitting on it from having been bled on by a wounded German who surrendered it. We're going to try this old piece and see if it still shoots. It's 9mm Luger. We've got a rack of plates down there. There you go. That's not too bad for a 75-year-old gun. The one miss was my fault. But nonetheless, for a 75-year-old gun, this shoots pretty well. Clean them this time. So, P35 Polish Radom. Another clean run for the Polish Radom. 75 years old and still ticking like a Timex. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's given you some information you didn't have before and you found that interesting. Thank you very much. This is Paul Mazan, and if you'd like If you're a reader at all, you might really enjoy reading Fighting Poles. It's basically the story of my father and a orphan boy that he ran into during combat in World War II. So it's a story of his combat and this boy he ran into's family story of what the Germans were doing in Poland, as well as my father's experiences in the 6th Cavalry. Was the reconnaissance unit for Patton's 3rd Army. All right, this is Paul Mazan signing off, and thank you very much.
And this is the Alpha Charlie Papa channel. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.